Hi, everyone. I'm Megan Halsband. You already heard my very absurdly long title. Thank you for joining us today to talk with Vera and Kazoo about their most recent books. In case you haven't seen them, they were on the back of the stage. Anyway, the Waverider, the last book in the Amulet series, and Plain Jane and the Mermaid. So welcome. Thank you for joining us. Why don't you guys share a little piece of information that we don't already know about you, maybe? Actually, wait, before you do that, how many people have read the Amulet series who are here? Okay, good chunk. How many people have read Plain Jane and the Mermaid? Okay, fair few. How many people have read something else by Vera? Yeah, maybe Anya's Ghost. That one seems like it's a pretty big deal. I don't know. So we have some fans out here. We will try not to give spoilers for other people who have not maybe read the series yet. So yeah, share something with us that maybe we don't know.
Oh my gosh, like a hidden talent?
Sure, why not?
I have to demonstrate it later. I can sort of contact juggle, and I know a lot about sheep breeds and baking bread, I think.
Okay.
Yes, I'm ready for the end of the world.
I'm a very good mountain biker, and I play a lot of basketball. So if I could just play a sport or race cars, I think I'd do that rather than my books.
Mm-hmm. Than writing books.
I don't like being at the desk. Mm-hmm. In fact, I don't draw at my desk. I draw in cafes. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I've seen you draw at your dining room table.
That's right. It's better if it's food related.
We're going to see some photos of some of your drawings and sketches for the book in a little bit, and same with Vera's book. I learned this when I was chatting with them before the panel last week, that Vera and Kazoo have actually known each other for close to 20 years now.
Yeah,
Sounds right.
Yeah,
Probably 20.
They both worked on a anthology series together, and so I don't really even need to be here, but you're going to have to put up with me. So, it is actually on auto. Okay, well, we're going to kind of run through some of these in the background while we talk. I guess one of the first questions we should start off with, since we're talking about world building, title of the panel. One of the things that you mentioned in your Story District presentation earlier, Kazoo, was the fact that you were inspired by a number of different 80s series and things. And so I was kind of fascinated to hear about that. Would you share it with people here in case they weren't at your Story District presentation?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm such an 80s movie kid. I think if I didn't see Aliens when I was 8 years old,
Kind of early.
and it traumatized me, but also inspired me at the same time, it changed my life. I think it was Aliens that did it. And a lot of the 80s movies around that time, all the Spielberg and Lucas films, Amulet, it was basically a tribute to those types of movies, and that the magical, fantasy feel of all those movies. The way that the cinematography of those movies look, I wanted to draw that into these books. So I think these worlds were sort of cobbled together from like John Carpenter movies and with like Spielberg, of course, like Goonies, Richard Donner films, Willow, things like that, of that nature. I think even the Amulet logo was supposed to look like it was from the 80s.
And you've had that logo for a minute, right? You were saying.
Yeah, I was 19 when I drew the first Amulet pages.
Wow.
Not for the books that exist, but the first version of them.
So this series has been a long time in development.
Yeah. And you were 19 when we worked on Flight, right?
That sounds right. Yeah, I was in college. Yeah, I was studying animation.
Yeah, that's how long I was in I think I was 23, 24 when I put together the Flight anthology, and Vera was one of the first people I reached out to. So,
Yep.
long time.
I wouldn't be here without him, pretty sure.
Which is pretty cool. we didn't know that going into this panel. So
I mean, I knew that.
you knew that. The people at the library did not know that.
Yeah, small world.
It is a small world. I've definitely felt that myself sometimes in the library world. And working with comic artists over the last few years and getting to know the community and all the artists and things, you guys really have a tight-knit community, which I find kind of interesting. So Vera, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you began to put together, or maybe what inspired you to tell the story of Plain Jane?
Well, I think this kind of goes back to I think all children's authors are regurgitating things that happened to them as kids, but the first movie I ever saw when I moved from Russia was The Little Mermaid. I was at a birthday party in kindergarten, and let me be clear, I was only at this birthday party because I was in that class. This was not a friend. It was one of those parties where you invite everybody. I didn't speak a word of English. There's no chance I had any friends at that age. But there was a VCR in the corner. If anybody knows what VCRs are. It was playing The Little Mermaid, and I couldn't understand a word anyone was singing or saying, but it was beautiful. And I just completely fell in love with Disney animation at that age and wound up studying classical 2D animation in college, and then going to do animation for a decade after that. But that movie is just like locked in my head, and Beauty and the Beast was the first thing I saw in a theater. And I loved all these fairy tales growing up. My mom would read me and my brother fairy tales in Russian, and that was just like my bread and butter. I didn't read like normal American picture books. I had all these fairy tales coming in, and I noticed after a while that there was sort of a shorthand in a lot of these stories where the good character was young and pretty, and the evil character was old and ugly, and there was no middle ground. Everyone in between didn't get to be in the story at all. And I ingested that from everywhere in the culture, not just fairy tales, but as I got older, it just started to bum me out to see that the movies that were still being made would fit those same shorthands so often. And I wanted to make a fairy tale, because I still love them. There's still so much that's great about them. They're so weird. They're incredibly weird, especially Russian ones. They're very different. I wanted to make my own that combined all the things I loved with maybe a little bit more of a contemporary protagonist who's pushing against some of these beauty standards that she's ingesting the same way that I did as a kid.
Thank you.
Yeah, monologue. There you go.
That was one of my takeaways personally, kind of the flip of the standards, which I really appreciated. Let's see if we can oh no, that restarted it. Okay. Oh, well, here we go. So let's talk about how and the behind the scenes a little bit. So what are we looking at right now? We can't see what you're seeing, but
this is my mess. I make a mess, and that's how I make my books. I write and I draw at the same time. It allows me to work off of images. If I'm writing and I'm stuck, I can just look at the drawings, or just draw. And if I'm drawing, words will just appear basically because I want to hear what they're saying. So this is essentially how I script my books. I do what I call these my rehearsals. So I'm rehearsing the scenes. I don't think about panels at all. I just draw what is probably going to occur, and I do this several times, often 6 or 7 times. And I just draw as fast as I can, and it's like I'm making a movie in my brain. And I put them on paper. I put a date on them, and I revisit it usually the next day, and then do it again. Maybe the next day I'll do it again. And I'm often doing multiple scenes in that day, so like I'll work on 3 different scenes and do like the 6th draft of 3 different scenes that day, and then set it aside. I never commit to anything until the next day. So it gives me time to just sleep on it, think about it, look at it, and go, can I commit to this? Is this going to work? And usually around 5, 6, or 7 times, it's pretty good to go. So then after that, I will go ahead and pencil the pages. I actually think about like the next stage is actually the layouts. So I actually think about the way that it'll look in a page spread. I actually don't draw 1 page at a time. I always draw 2 because I know that's the way the reader's going to look at them. So I actually think that I come from a film background, but when I do comics, I do think of the comics as if it's something different. The comics themselves, I feel there's an interactive component. When you have all of the images in front of you at once, it's not the same as seeing all of them in sequence like in a movie. So I want to see what everyone's going to see at once, and then I'm basically giving them like a smorgasbord of imagery that they will take and turn into the story. And then they do that however many times during a book, 100 times or so, for like a 200-page book. And so that's what I'm doing here is I'm just sort of designing the experience of looking at the book. I also have a background in architecture, concept art. I like designing spaces, so this goes into the world building aspect of it. I feel like the pages themselves are a space. This is like the room that I have to work with, and I'm creating a space. And so this is why I spend so much time designing the panels. So those early versions of it, I don't like the flow of the panels. This is I think what I ended up committing to. I'm also thinking about how somebody moves across the page and how they go through it. So it's like a roller coaster or like a log ride, like a flume ride. And I think of the direction at which your eye would go down the page, and then I draw based on that as well. And I think that's part of the world building. You're actually just navigating through these maps throughout and then finding the story throughout. So that if you don't understand the story, there isn't like actually a wall for you. You could just experience the experience, and then in there, if you'll probably understand the story at one level, and if you can read the text, then you're understanding it at a different level. And so from there, I go to pencils, and then I will ink. After that, I'll just go over that with a graphite pencil or ink on the next one. Yeah, there you go. And then there's a stage called flatting, page flatting, where very simple colors are added to all the shapes so that all the colors are trapped within those shapes and it's easier to paint on top of. And then the last stage is the painting stage.
And you get the extras.
And this is where it feels like this is where the soundtrack of the book comes in.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, this is like where the music and the noise and everything starts coming in. And the way I think about it when I color, I think about it in terms of temperature more than anything. So I always think, is this a hot scene? Is this a cold scene? You know, what does this place feel like? And, you know, is it gonna be just neutral? Is it gonna be very sunny? Is it gonna be dark? And the colors are where I can do that. All right. So I don't know.
I was noticing that as I was going through, like, you know, certain parts of both of your books are you know, very keyed to specific color schemes, and we have a slide that's coming up in a little bit that Vera has.
Mm-hmm. And then
right.
here's,
Ooh,
this is
sorry, I'm skipping over.
Oh, no, keep going.
Part.
Just go through it real quick.
So some pages from,
Amulet 9, yeah.
Yep, the current book. I don't think there's any spoilers in here.
Yeah, and a lot of this is I got to credit Jason Kafo, who was my assistant for many years. He painted a lot of the backgrounds here, designed a lot of the things that you see. It was some beautiful work.
I love this page.
Yeah, this one was fun to draw.
Mm-hmm. Mountains, more. One of the things that I've noticed is a lot of comic artists have their own sort of sound language, if that makes sense, where you have a particular you know, theme that you have that maybe nobody else actually uses. And, you know, something in comic studies we'll get really nerdy here for anybody who cares. You know, they talk about how the language of comics, actually you can hear it in your head when you're reading. And so that was one of the important things about comics for a lot of people, is that you could hear the action going on in the while you're reading. All right, I'm going to skip very quickly because we're going to talk about Plain Jane and the Mermaid. So maybe a little bit about how you kind of developed this. We had a background, but
yeah. So I also have a film background, an animation background, and my first book, Anya's Ghost, I did like Kazoo did, where the art and the text came at the same time. I did the panel layout, and I wrote the dialogue next to it because they were both arriving at the same time. But the problem with that is it was impossible to show that book to anyone else because it was complete chicken scratch. It was only intelligible to me for about 24 hours. And this was my first book, so I couldn't sell the book until it was completely finished. And I worked in animation for so long, I learned to read scripts and I learned to write scripts, and I realized like, oh, a script is a lot faster. It's a faster way to communicate your story if you want to get feedback. So this is, I think that was the script from Coraline, and these were some of the storyboards I drew. That was my job in animation, was storyboards, which is very similar to comics. So I took my script knowledge and I applied it to comics, and I wound up with like a very kind of, it's like doing all the steps of making a movie, except I'm doing them all by myself. So I would write the script then do little thumbnail drawings next to it on the facing page, which is similar to what Kazu does, except it's much smaller. Just figure out the layout, the way the eye is gonna move across the page. And you can see I do the same thing where I do 2 pages next to each other, because that's absolutely super important. Where that page turn is where the reader is interacting with the book. That's like your chance for a surprise. And also, I notice if I'm repeating myself, if it's the same layout next to each other, it's just kind of boring to look at. So it's just a way to keep it interesting. And then I did character design, which is super fun. I guess this is more stuff from animation, but also I guess sort of world building. I'm just inserting the world building in periodically. But I had to come up with my own take on mermaids, which is every little girl's dream maybe. And I spent a long time on Jane, who I think is coming up on the next one. Yeah, she's the main character, and she was probably the hardest to get right. Because I don't think she's not ugly, and I think she's actually incredibly cute. I don't think I can draw a not cute character. But she's been told she's ugly by everyone, and I think that's enough for most people. If you're hearing it from someone in your life, you're gonna believe it. So I think a lot of her journey was to tune out other people's voices and hear herself for the first time. This is also a cat who is in 1 page of the book and got about 3 or 4 pages of sketchbook character designs devoted to him because I just had a really, really good time with him. Mr. Whiskers. I'm gonna come back for him. There's a story here, I think.
Yes, please. I would love to see what's going on. And he looks so
He looks like
concerned.
Orson Welles.
A little
He
bit.
acts like Orson Welles.
Yeah.
I would love to read a book about Mr. Whiskers.
I'm on it. That's going to be the sequel. I'm terrible at sequels. I never write a story that,
Well,
I wrap things up because I think I'm making a movie in my head. I usually just try let's button this up.
Time for a series.
well, so when Jane is off doing her thing, maybe you can tell the story of what Mr. Whiskers
Meanwhile,
is doing.
back at home,
Yeah.
the cat is peeing on the rug in the hallway.
Sometimes that happens. I loved this because you get to see everybody all at once. They don't all appear
No.
together throughout the book, and so
Most of them don't.
yeah. So this was an interesting way. I'm blanking on the angry Toadman's character.
I love that guy.
That's Angry Toad Man. Everyone knows. His name is Vodnik.
Okay,
Vodnik.
thank you. There was a lot of, for me visually, some of the 90s cartoons. I don't know if you ever watched Ren and Stimpy.
I knew you were going to say that. That's great. I was really scared of Ren and Stimpy.
Ren and Stimpy
also
was a little bit
fascinating.
scary. Probably
But
the parents in here have probably, or older people in here have probably seen it. It's not really a kid's cartoon,
but it super is.
but it is.
Yeah.
It's got lots of fart jokes and all kinds of other
Yeah,
things.
it's like
So,
that and Beavis and Butthead.
yep.
A lot of moles with hairs coming out of them.
Yep.
Yeah,
Try
lots
looking
of-
at that.
Sorry, that went in a totally different direction than I planned. All right. You have, we're going to really quickly do maybe 1 more minute. You can talk about a couple of the
Oh,
other
sure.
images that we have in here. And
Yeah.
then we'll, last comment and then take some questions from people. Does that work?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't enjoy world building. Welcome to my panel. I like character. Like that lineup was way more fun for me. But all those people have to exist somewhere other than a white void. So I wanted to try to kind of ground it in reality a little bit, and that included a research trip to Newfoundland, Canada, which wound up being like the perfect place. The book doesn't take place in Newfoundland on the page, but visually, it was super, super inspired by that. And I did a lot of sketches while I was there. What's coming next? I'm so curious. Oh yeah, and I found this book about, yeah, keep going, these are great. It's a photographer from the 1800s who took pictures of women in Newfoundland and the hard work they did and the incredibly hard lives they had. And I just copied pictures from that book. I like to steal, like that little Eastern European guy, I stole him from someone else's fairy tale book and just put him in mine. And that's totally allowed.
It is. You get inspiration from everywhere.
Inspiration, yes.
Yeah, that's the inspiration. It's not stealing or theft.
Public domain.
Nothing exists in a vacuum. That few more panels. We'll go through these really quickly.
Really quickly. But it's similar to what Kazoo does too.
Who is this?
This is Alec Longstreth.
Oh, I know. That's right.
Yeah. Who's this guy? I worked with a colorist on my book. You do all your own color, right?
No, I do a lot of it, but a lot of it is assistants like Jason.
Yeah, okay. So he was kind of my Jason. So together with Alec, I figured out a color script for the story.
That's nice.
Look at how many colors there are.
There's so many locations in the book. She's in the village, she's underwater, and it's jumping back and forth between different characters. And to give Alec some sort of a guideline so he wasn't just flailing in the dark, I made a little color script so he could at least start every page with a palette to work from. And he made every page feel like a different space, I think, really well. So when you do flip through the book, you do kind of like Kazoo's book. It's got an emotional...
The color contributes to the world building.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
World building.
Yeah. All right. We'll go back. We'll leave it with Jane. Any last things you want to say, or go straight to questions?
Yeah, I think both of us we're so story focused with our work that I feel like the world building is for us, for me anyway. It's like I'm working with the limitations, and I love my limitations that you can't see what's beyond the page. So my job is really to try to imply what's outside of the panel. Like that's the world building in my mind. I'm like, what can I do to do a drawing where I draw very little and everyone thinks of a lot. And so I feel that you're the world builder, not me. Yeah. So I'm just putting stuff out there that just gives you the tools to do it.
They get breadcrumbs.
Yeah, they just get, because I can only afford breadcrumbs with my time.
There's not that many of us.
Yeah.
It's a lot of world to build.
Yeah.
That's true. All right. Well, thank you.
All right.
And let's give Vera and Kazoo a round of applause. All right. So let's open it up to questions. If you can
there's
go
two
to the
mics right
microphone
over there,
so
so
that
if you have
everyone can hear.
Maybe you said already, but what is a cronery?
Yeah, what is a crone?
That was in one of the slides for a second. It's a crone store, obviously. If you're a crone, it's your place of business. So if you need like a bottle of eyeballs or some dried plants or a cat to jump on your head from a high spot, that's where you go. That's where Jane goes to get her 3 magical gifts to start her journey, which is my favorite fairy tale stuff. She gets a shawl and a rock that keeps her from floating to the top of the ocean, and a magical potion to breathe underwater. From the cronery,
Nice.
obviously. Every town should have a cronery.
Yeah.
I run the cronery in Portland, Oregon, in case anyone's curious.
Yeah.
Hi. So, as someone who also studied animation and also studied storyboarding specifically, and is now transitioning into the world of library, first of all, I love seeing your process, seeing the way that you integrated like the color script and the beat boards and just all of that really great stuff into your process. Are there any challenges that you found sort of translating, the way that you would work in animation into working in a graphic novel? Were there any situations that you kind of had to work through regarding that?
I assume that's for me?
Yeah, that's-
That seemed for me.
Yeah,
Sure,
definitely
both
for
of you, if you
But
want
yeah.
to chime in.
Yeah.
I think I'd say what Kazee said is like, I know my limitations. And in animation, you are working with hundreds of people, and there are people who are incredibly good at the thing you are bad at, and you just hand it over to them at the appropriate time. But with a graphic novel, you're doing everything. So a lot of it is just, yeah, like Kazee said, just like make you think I'm better than I am in various ways, but enough to keep the story going in like a non-distracting way, I think. So yeah, that's sort of the modest answer.
And in animation, we're around a lot of talent. Like it's like a school of talent.
Yeah.
So you learn from their tools. I think that's for me. It was also I used 3D to test lighting.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
Cool.
I would stay at the studio late at night because I was just working in 3D, and I would just be in Maya trying all sorts of different lighting on different types of surfaces to see what it looked like. Just to learn what that would do, and that affected the way I paint, because I paint with so much light. Yeah.
Yes.
Hey there, first off, thanks for being here. This was wonderful. My question was for Kazu. When it comes to planning out a series, how much role building do you do up front versus per story?
Almost none. I try not to, because the way I see it, I think I mentioned it on a podcast with Jessica Abel. I called it, I just threw it out there when I was talking to her. I call it idea debt. Because if I have like a concept that I want to fit my story into, then I'm like indebted to myself to try to make that happen. And it can often ruin my story. So I try not to know where I'm going so that I could make my choices based on character and not based on the world. So I'm not trying to fit my characters into the world. I'm trying to move the characters through it, and then I will modify the world to fit the mood and whatever they need in that moment. And so the world is really just always changing and evolving. And then whatever results is the world.
Thank you.
I think we have time for one or two more, so yeah.
Hi, I was just wondering if you had any advice for like how to make panels and backgrounds more dynamic.
That one's for you.
No, you go first. No, go ahead. Do you have? Okay, I'll go first.
Yeah,
Okay,
you
come
go.
on.
You do it.
Dynamic backgrounds. I don't know. I do things based on the character. So really, the background, I will change the background. The set doesn't work on any of my books. Like I just essentially just put what's in the background that will imply the sense of space. Okay, so here's what I do. Usually, I have one big detailed image that shows you the space, and the rest of the time, I'm just cutting little pieces of that, or I'm just like indicating what you may have seen in that bigger image, because that's the one you're going to keep in your head. Because if I had to draw that over and over and over again for you, it would take me too long, and in fact, it would be distracting. You'd look at the background. So I always do one big establishing shot. Everything else is just the same color, maybe, and that's about it.
I'm terrible at this. So what I do is similar to that, but also just pull up a book of someone who you think is great at it,
Yeah.
and then just study them. So
Yeah.
I would just look at Kazee's books. Also, I think
Yay
Emily.
for using resources maybe from a library.
Yeah, you
From
can go to
the
library.
Yeah, I think manga is incredible for dynamic layouts, much
Yeah.
more than Western comics, I think. Emily Carroll is also incredible.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I think can we have time for one more question?
Let's do
One more
We got one
question?
more. You got it. Okay.
Okay.
First of all, I'd like to say I love your work a lot. And second of all, this is mainly focused at Kazu. How do you create a good plot twist without completely changing the story?
I actually don't know the plot twists as I'm going into them. So I just hope that it happens.
So it's a
And-
plot twist for you as
And
well as the
and then
audience.
when I feel it happen, then I know you're gonna like it. So I mean, and what do you do for plot twists?
Same. If I'm surprised, I'm gonna hope the reader will be too.
Yeah, I'm as surprised as you. So,
Yeah. Where does it come
both of us.
from? No one knows.
Yeah,
The ether.
hope it happens.
Thank you all for joining us so much. Thank you, Kazu and Vera.